Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur, and today we are talking about the player that could be the biggest signing of Inter Miami's offseason, at least in terms of name recognition or pedigree, and that's Sergio Reguilón. We're going to talk about him today. We're going to catch up on a lot of the things that happened over the last week and a half that we were too busy doing other things to actually dedicate the amount of time that we should have to it. And I think maybe that'll take us throughout the episode. So we'll kind of just go home and wait till next one after that. How's that sound, man?
That sounds good. And when you say other things, you mean a lot of Driving Dialogue things, because we've been preparing for the holiday season. Let's just say that. So we might not have gone live for a while, but we have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. A lot of episodes to come for you guys. So keep an eye out for those. But this one's a nice little interlude between the holiday season where we can sit and just discuss all the updates that have happened over the last few days, last few weeks. And it's just a whirlwind right now, right? We won the MLS Cup, and then you get the transfer news straight after. And starting with Sergio Reguilón. Also, I might add, for those of you who followed our last episode, that ticks off the first box of our bingo cards. So, Scotty, we're off, man. May the best bingo card win.
Just behind the scenes, we have recorded like 4 episodes in the last 48 hours. One of them was live, so it actually has not been that long since we went live.
Yeah.
Sergio Reguilón signs. Official. Fabrizio Romano reported it. 20 minutes later, Inter Miami announces it. We get him in the kit. He's in South Florida. He did his physical. He signed the contract. He's got the picture. He's going to wear number 3. Sergio Reguilón. There's so many aspects to this that are happy, sad, emotional. First off, he's Jordi Alba's replacement. Like, as a player, as a human being on the pitch that is going to be running up and down that left sideline. That's what Jordi Alba did, and now it will be Sergio Reguilón's job to do. Let's just start by saying can't hold him to that standard. Can't hold him to that standard.
I think a better way to frame this would be he is the replacement for Jordi Alba on the team sheet and on paper. When the starting 11 comes out and you see Sergio Reguilón in Jordi Alba's position, that's where he's supposed to be. But in terms of how he plays, in terms of what he brings to the team, in terms of what he does going forward, defending backward, it just completely changes the dynamic. You're absolutely right. You cannot judge him by the same standards. No other left back that Inter Miami could practically look to purchase would produce the same goals and assists that Jordi Alba has over the last 2 years. So it's unfair to even consider that Sergio Reguilón will bring 50% of that, I would say. If he has 3, 4, 5 assists next season, I would consider that a success, because this is not a player that's going to contribute to the attacking force. We can talk about what this means for the team structure and how it shapes up, but you're right. The first point that needs to be clarified is this is not Jordi Alba. This is Sergio Reguilón. And I think this changes the team dynamic quite drastically.
Yes. And so whatever happens when he gets here, however good he is, like I know everyone sort of understands is he's not Jordi Alba, but like that's okay. Now, not only is he going to start in that same position at left back, he's also going to be a Spanish midfield, or a Spanish fullback coming in. So lots of off the field similarities between Reguilón and Jordi Alba. On the field, obviously no one is Jordi Alba, and unless we are going to go buy from Paris Saint-Germain, I don't think we're going to get a fullback that can repeat what Jordi Alba provided for this team.
Yeah, I'm sure Paris is willing to sell Nuno Mendes.
Exactly. So with that in mind, I think we can put that to the side. Jordi Alba, fantastic, but it's not about replacing him. It's about having a left back of good quality. And with that in mind, what do you think of Sergio Reguilón?
I think this is a very serviceable player. He's going to be a top player in the MLS from what we know of him. I have a few concerns, but let's start with the positives. This is a player that does everything to the above average level. He's a good defender of the ball. He's good with his positioning, knows how to go in for tackles, is a good passer, crisp passer, finds a cross or two from time to time. He is not fantastic going forward, not brilliant defensively, but good both ways through. So I think overall, the best way to describe this would be he is above average across the board as a left back. And that I think is a compliment. I'm not trying to undersell his qualities. He does a lot of good things. He's good with the passing, with his movement, and can make a run in behind. Very serviceable player and will do the job for the team. And may or may not have an impact, but I think 9 out of 10 times he will have an above average performance. And I would say 4 out of 10 times he will have an impact in the game in the MLS. Now, this is what we're basing our assumption on: his performances in Europe, his performances with Tottenham, Brentford, Manchester United. The concern is he hasn't played in almost a year. The concern is his injury record. And the concern is whether he's as motivated to come here and what his motivations actually are. So I think there's some positives to this, absolutely. There's some question marks to this. I wouldn't call this a negative signing by any means. I think this is a largely positive signing. But I need to see how he will assimilate to the MLS to have that level of impact in this league.
Okay, let's do a little bio run to kind of get a sense of where he's at in his career. He came out of the Real Madrid Academy, had a couple games with Real Madrid, never became like a real piece for them, but to be on the field for Real Madrid is is not nothing. Eventually, he gets bought by Tottenham, has a season at Sevilla where he's he's a starter for Sevilla, goes to Tottenham, has a couple seasons there, has a sort of doesn't get great remarks at Tottenham. Let's put it that way. Does get a couple caps with the Spanish national team early on, but it has been a while since that's happened. Falls out of favor at Tottenham. Eventually, loan move to Atletico Madrid, plays a dozen games. 6-month loan move to Manchester United, where he plays a dozen games as sort of a fill-in for an injured Luke Shaw at the time, and then finishes that 2023-2024 season after 6 months at Man United with 6 months at Brentford, and he starts basically every Premier League game in his time at Brentford. Last season at Tottenham, did not play much, and clearly he's been out of the plans at Tottenham for quite some time. Not a factor last season at Tottenham. Then he became a free agent in June. His contract with Tottenham ran out after 5 years. Did not sign with another team. Obviously did not play much in the 12 months prior to that. Did not pick up an offer from a Premier League club, which I'm sure he would have taken. Did not get an offer that he liked from, a Spanish club, although I'm sure there are certainly Spanish clubs that would have been happy to have him on the roster, maybe not for whatever salary or, with the prestige that he was looking for. And eventually, after about 3 months, maybe 4 months as a free agent, there's a out-of-nowhere tweet by Fabrizio Romano, who is linking Sergio Reguilón to Inter Miami. We start hearing rumblings about Jordi Alba maybe retiring, and it starts to click. It starts to make sense. And then all of a sudden, Jordi Alba announces he's retiring. We kind of hear lots of things about Sergio Reguilón being the replacement. Jorge Mas, after the MLS Cup final, said we already have agreements for replacement players for the guys that were leaving, at least the big names like Alba and Busquets. And clearly that was Sergio Reguilón. Today it became official. He's officially signed for Inter Miami and has barely played in the last 18 months. But like you, I kind of remember watching him in the Premier League and thinking, not a standout, but he is clearly a Premier League capable left back. I'm not sure Tottenham fans feel the same way, and they would have watched him more than I have, certainly. But my expectation is we're going to get like a Premier League rotation piece caliber left back, which for the MLS I think is pretty good. He's going to be plenty athletic enough, plenty skilled enough, plenty intelligent enough to be an impactful player in this league. And so for Inter Miami to get a piece like that to replace Jordi Alba and to do it on a TAM contract, I think is like pretty much as good as you could have asked for, given the timing and considering Jordi Alba's retirement came sort of late after maybe you spent much of the season thinking you were going to
Yeah.
continue on with Jordi Alba moving forward.
But also, this is the MLS, and having a player like Jordi Alba was a luxury. I don't think any other any other team in the MLS would have the same level of investment in their left back as Inter Miami did. So I think this is just Inter Miami resolving to normality, and even then, we're aiming way above the normal in the MLS. I don't think any other MLS team can boast having a Premier League level left back play for them as a starter. So we do need to contextualize that. Having Jordi Alba was a luxury, and the fact that Inter Miami was able to pull this deal off as a TAM contract is actually huge. My sense is that his abilities will translate well to the league, but I don't want to be premature in my judgment. I still would like to see how he settles in, but I'm excited for this signing. I think this is a very good left back signing, and he's not going to set our world on fire by any means. This is not going to be a player that's going to, make us get up and applaud.
Well,
But this will be a player who will do the job that the team needs. And I think in that position, that's exactly what you need.
let's talk ceiling and floor because I don't necessarily want to sell him short. If he comes in with a serious I'll also add he's 28 years old, so he's not like 34-year-old sort of decline on the decline from a physical perspective. Like he might be the best left back in the league. And I'm not saying I think that will happen, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he's among the best left backs in the league, especially after you give him a couple, maybe 8 weeks to sort of get back into the flow of playing weekly and get accustomed to his teammates. And, we know Messi loves having a left back that is very involved in the offense. And maybe that's a Jordi Alba thing, but maybe that's something he will also try and pull out of Sergio Reguilón. Like, I think there's at least a chance he's the top or among the top left backs in the league. So I don't want to sell him short that he can't be like an impact player if everything goes right. Do you disagree, or do you think that's
No, and
fair?
that's why earlier I said that he would have an impact in determining the outcome of a game 4 out of 10 times. Where Jordi Alba may have had it 7 out of 10 times, Sergio Reguilón would have it 4 out of 10 times, which is still a lot for a left
But
back. And
again, I want to be careful about saying what he will or won't be. He has not played really in 18 months. I think
yeah,
we have to be very
measured.
open about what this could be, because
Exactly.
on the high end I think it could be good. On the low end, maybe not.
It could be another Gonzalo Lujan.
I don't think it'll be that.
I'm sorry, that was unjust and unnecessary. But he's 29, and genuinely that shocks me because I thought he's 32.
He's 28, although he turns
He's
29
29.
tomorrow. He turns
Oh,
29
there you
tomorrow.
go.
My apologies.
And that's, I think, a solid age for somebody to come into the MLS. He's going to be athletic. If he can stay fit, he's going to have that physicality to him, which I think is part of half the battle. And yes, you're absolutely right. We have to be measured. We can't say that this is who he's going to be and this is who he's not going to be. But the upside is very high. And the low
Right.
side is, I think, not that low because you have Noah Allen as a backup, which I assume is going to be the case. And I think this is a fairly risk-free signing, if I'm being honest.
I'm kind of with you. Like, I think the upside is he could be the best left back in
Yeah.
the league. Probably not by like margins like
lot.
Jordi Alba was, and that probably is best case scenario. He's sort of at the top. But on the downside, as long as he's healthy and sort of fit and can find form, like I don't think he's going to lose his spot to Noah Allen type of level. And certainly if it feels like he should, we will call for it. I don't expect that to happen. Like, I think he's going to be at worst top 10 left back in the MLS. Again, I get fullback not a position many MLS teams invest heavily in, but like I do think the floor is really pretty high on this. So I agree with you in that regard. And as long as you're not giving him the big, huge contract that's preventing you from going out and getting other pieces, it kind of feels like a no-brainer to me.
I agree with you, and I think this is one that we may look back on the season and think, wow, he was probably the best signing of the season. Uh, Again, could, would, should, all speculation, but I'm excited to see what he does. And the more I think about it, the more it makes a lot of sense for me. And if you look at the alternatives, would you rather have him or Kai Wagner? Kai Wagner's
Well,
MLS proven.
I would just say Edward asks, what do you think will be better value for money? Who do you think will be better? Between the two, Kai Wagner, who is a name that we heard connected to Inter Miami and some rumblings. I don't think that was real, so we never really addressed it here. But I would expect Reguilón to outperform Kai Wagner, and I don't think he's coming any more expensive than Kai Wagner would. So I think this is the right decision if you could just pick one from the two.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. No, I actually agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Kai Wagner's a great MLS level player, but I'm not sure if this is what
is he a great MLS player?
Good MLS level player.
I will say some of the conversation on Kai Wagner over the last I've seen over the last couple of weeks has been really.
Wait, let me rephrase that. We have Noah Allen. Full stop. That's all I'm going to say. And I'd rather Noah Allen start in that position than Kai Wagner. Simple as that. So if you bring in a left back that has to have a higher upside than Noah Allen, and I think Sergio Reguilón does that. Now, I'm going to get crucified in the chat for saying that, but I believe wholeheartedly that who you bring in has to be better than your backup option. And I think Noah Allen would do as good a job as Kai Wagner in most of the games.
Okay, so anyways, Reguilón, I think at worst is like league above average. And at best, I think he could be the best left back in the league. And if that's what you're signing up for with a TAM contract, especially for a style of play that, listen, I think the style of play will be very different next year. I think we can all agree on that. And we will talk about that more, both in about 15 minutes and also later this week. But for now, I don't think there's any doubt that getting Reguilón TAM money is a pretty exciting investment, I think.
I would agree.
Okay, I want to just have a bigger picture conversation about the fullbacks, except there's a bunch of other fullback news that we need to get to. And let's start. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, once we have the bigger fullback picture, can we have a quick discussion about what the team's play style might look like with regards to the fullbacks as well next season? Because I think that's a very interesting conversation to be had. And maybe that's a whole other podcast in itself. But since we're talking about it, why not waffle?
Okay, last week, we mentioned it on the last pod, but Ian Fray gets a new contract. We were kind of in a rush to get our bingo cards sorted, and we had to talk about the whole team. So we didn't really give it the appropriate amount of time, but we went into this season saying they need to get 3 young players on new deals, and they got Noah Allen, and then they got Yannick Bright, and we kind of left it late on Ian Fray, not because the club wasn't working on it, but because external factors and debates about where his future should be. They get it done, and not just get it done, they get it done right away. I don't think there's much of a difference between him signing 3 days after the MLS Cup final versus 2 months ago. Whereas I think there was a world where we thought, A, this might lead into January, late January regardless, and B, we might end up not having him at all. And C, even if we do, it might come third week of January. And so for us to kind of lock it down before anybody in Europe really has a chance to sort of put the contract in front of him, and for us to be able to go into the offseason knowing he's locked in, I think that's a huge deal. And I want to talk about it more from Ian Frey's perspective, but just from the team's perspective, how big is this?
It's huge because I think sorting that right back position and now the left back position entirely before you start heading out and doing business across the board was so important. Because if Ian Fray doesn't get signed in the next 2 months, You're bringing in a new right back, but then you constantly have it in the back of the mind. Who are you bringing in as the backup? You still have to resolve that issue. By signing Ian Fray early, you make it known that he is here to stay. Ian Fray deserved that contract, and I know you said we're going to talk about it from his perspective, but from the team's perspective, he has been a huge part of this MLS Cup success, and we needed to lock in this right back position as soon as possible. I know we're talking about bringing in Mura as well, but this does the business in the fullbacks now, and doing it early, just now you can focus on your other positions, which are more important, where you have to invest more of your money. You've let Chelo Wegan go. Ian Fray's contract situation was up in the air, and you were looking to bring in another right back. This was a position that needed to be resolved quickly, and Inter Miami's done it, I think, to perfection. Exactly what we needed and how we needed to resolve it, and they've done it early. And now we can focus on other positions and invest more money there, depending on how we want to build the rest of the squad up.
Just quickly, because it's related. Pepto's asked in the chat, "Where's our new center back?" This is very early. They signed Sergio Reguilón today. This is very early for Inter Miami to be signing players. Over the last 2 seasons, the only incoming transfers they've had in December was Luis Suarez back in the end of 2023. That was like happening this early in the offseason. Virtually all of their business starts in terms of incomings in July. And that's when you start to get some MLS players. We got Gressel and Fafa Bico and Talasco Segovia in early July. But this is still very early. So when we're talking about locking Ian Fray down, when we're talking about signing Sergio Reguilón, when we talk about Facundo Mura in a second, it is very early. And so there's no need to panic or worry about center back position, goalkeeping position, wherever else you want to go. So just as a reminder for everyone, you could just take a deep breath. I don't think we would have expected this to happen even this early, although it's been in the works for months. I still think, like, if this had happened on January 1st, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Okay, Ian Fray, from his perspective, we thought, okay, young American, good soccer player. You would imagine his dream would at some day be to go chase what he can be in Europe and try and play at the highest level. And we heard about some clubs that might be interested in him in Belgium, in the Netherlands, maybe in Germany, stuff like that over the last couple months. And because he was a free agent, we thought, very good chance that he might pursue one of those opportunities, because as a free agent, this is the easiest time it will ever be to make a move like that, because you don't have to worry about teams coming to terms on an agreement that works for both sides. It is the middle of the European calendar, which is also, tough, but if you're a free agent, it's much easier. But then I realized something as this was all coming together. He wants to make that Jamaica team that might go to the World Cup. And it will be a lot easier for him to make that Jamaica team if he's playing every game in the MLS than if he goes to a new team in the middle of their season and it takes him 6 months to sort of break through, or he needs a preseason to sort of break through. So for Ian Fray, congratulations, by the way, on the new contract.
He deserves it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But just from his perspective, like, I don't think this means he's not going to leave in the next year. But I think Inter Miami's biggest sort of endeavor next year is going to win that Concacaf Champions Cup, which will be over before the World Cup. And then after the World Cup, I think for a lot of players on this roster, there could be some moves going in and out, because they will either have delayed a big move until after the World Cup to not disrupt their opportunity to make their national teams for that tournament, or B, it will then be the European season and teams will have more money to spend on, players that they want or need. So I think it actually does make sense for Ian Fray to stick around. Now, Jamaica not guaranteed to make the World Cup. They're going to go into the playoff, but if they do make it, and if he's at Ghent in Belgium and he's not really playing because the team is already set and, the coach just wanted to bring in a new player to sort of be the fourth string guy and then next year give him a real opportunity to earn minutes, and all of a sudden he's not playing for 6 months, that could be a real issue for him to make the World Cup. So I think it makes sense from that perspective. And then for us, we get to keep seeing Ian Fray, and that's also pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's about visibility as well. He's a starter for this Inter Miami team. He's getting the visibility, having won the MLS Cup, having contributed to the team's success. You're absolutely right that when he's going and looking into how his best opportunities lie in making it to the Jamaican national team, I think he gets more minutes in this MLS Inter Miami team. And playing regularly will allow him to prove that he's ready to compete in the World Cup as well. And he's going to have a lot more suitors in the summer if he's actually looking to make that move. If he continues to play at the level that he's been playing, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be gone soon. But this makes sense for all parties all over. And again, he deserved this contract. And I'm glad that Inter Miami recognized his contributions to the team so far. And he's probably going to be one of those players that departs the team sooner rather than later. But for now, I'm just glad that we locked him down for at least the next season, if however long he's here.
Okay, let's talk about Facundo Mura also, because I think we can have a bigger picture conversation about how all three of these guys fit in. But they kind of got the other piece of business done at that spot. No Chelo Weigand. We've heard about Facundo Mura as a guy they're thinking about bringing in. That seems like it's a done deal. Racing played their final game Saturday afternoon of the season. And so now he's just, we're just waiting
Chilling.
for him to come sign in. And like,
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that he signs tomorrow because they wanted to wait until Reguilón got his big day. I also think there's a chance it happens January 2nd because his contract with Racing might go through December 31st or something like that. And so he has to wait until he's a free agent before he can actually sign. But I think as far as Facundo Mura is concerned, like I think it's a done deal. He's coming into Miami. I think it's going to be sort of in that price range from a salary perspective that Chelo Weigand was taking up. And like I think he's going to be a nice player as well. I think he's going to be a real upgrade on Chelo Weigand. Maybe not quite as bodyguardy and wanting to punch players, but like I think he'll be a technical upgrade. I think he might be a little bit quicker, at least in short bursts. I think he'll be better defensively. So I think this is a good player that Inter Miami's signing. And like I have said a lot of things about signing players from Argentina, but if you're going to get them on free transfers, I think it's good value. And I think this is a good player that's going to add to this team.
Can I ask you a question? What's Inter Miami's record with players been when we signed them from Argentina? Toto Avilés was decent.
I would say most players that come from the Argentine league, almost all of them, have been bad value for money. Not necessarily bad players, but just bad value for money.
Yeah. Federico Redondo, Matas Rojas as well, I believe, River Plate.
He came from Brazil.
Oh. But yeah, I agree with you. I think this is another smart business strategy. Risk is low because you also signed Ian Fray on the side. So you know that if it takes Facundo Mura some time to actually get in to rhythm and understand the MLS and take time to embed himself in, Ian Fray is right there, able to do a starting job. I think he will be an upgrade on Chelo Weigand technically and holistically as a player as well. If we have signed him for less money than Weigand, I think that's genuinely impressive. But even if it's in the similar price band, I think that's okay. We have Ian Fray in that position. We needed to bolster it with another signing. This is a very solid signing coming in from Racing as well. That's a great club. So he will have the technical ceiling to perform in the MLS as well. And again, risk is low because you have Ian Fray waiting in the wings in case Facundo Mura is, not able to deliver on at least from the get-go.
I don't think it's quite that simple. One thing I do think we should be keeping in mind is that Sergio Reguilón is going to be a downgrade on Jordi Alba. Whatever he ends up being, he won't be as good as Jordi Alba. And the same thing will be said about Sergio Busquets. Whoever ends up filling that spot, whether it's just Yannick Bright, they're not going to be as high a quality as Sergio Busquets. So all of your other signings kind of have to be better than the guy that you are replacing in order to keep the overall talent level as high as it is. So not only is it important to replace Chelo from just having a guy that can play minutes, but I think it is important to get like a real quality upgrade to help you counteract some of the quality losses that you're losing elsewhere. So that is one factor. And I do think he is going to be better than Chelo Weigand.
So this was the exact conversation I wanted to have as well about the fullbacks and how this affects the makeup of the team, right? Because I think you make a really good point that I did not actually think about. Yes, you're losing the quality of Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba that you can't replace one to one. It's impossible. But I think the incremental upgrades that you make across other positions is what's going to help you get to a point where 6 players that you sign will be equal to the 2 players that you lost in Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba. So I think that's a really good point that you make. And I hope Facundo Mura and Sergio Reguilón are upgrades to what we have available. Well, with Jordi Alba, of course not, but with Chelo Egan, I hope that's definitely an upgrade and can actually do a solid job for this team when asked to do one, and more than a solid job actually.
And listen, I don't know how much you've watched him, but like he is more technical than Chelo Egan.
Yeah.
I think he's got a little bit more of a burst in short areas. And then defensively, I think he's going to be a much bigger upgrade. Not quite as thick and not any bigger than Chelo Egan, but I think just like understanding his body positioning and how to keep guys in front of him, I think he will be an upgrade in that regard. So Facundo Mura, I think, will be an upgrade. The question is, how do all of these guys fit together? And I want to start there.
How do they fit together?
Let me wait. Before we do, let me ask you this. Once Facundo Mura signs, Ian Fray is back, Sergio Reguilón's in the fold. I think they're done at fullback.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
have Sergio Reguilón at left back as your starter. Noah Allen as a guy who can fill in there if needed. You got Ian Fray and Facundo Mura as guys that can split that right back position. And what I mean by split is if one of them goes down, the other one is perfectly capable of starting there until the other guy comes back. And maybe you'll get a little bit of sort of rotation from Ian Fray, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But so you have both your starter and your backup already. We know Javier Mascherano doesn't want to have 2 of every position because he's not going to rotate them enough to keep everyone happy. So I think that's what he wants. And then if you have the kids as an emergency options if you need it in Izzy Boatwright and Tyler Hall. So like I do think even for me who likes to have multiple options at every position so you can either rotate a lot or always have a guy at his natural position instead of having to sort of move guys around for injuries. I feel good about it. I feel good about the fullback on both sides.
I actually am very happy with the fullback situation. It's about replacing the players that you lost, but honestly, we come back to this exact point. You can't nearly replace Jordi Alba, and you had to make signings smartly. You had to make a signing that would make sense for the team, and I think across both fullback positions, the signings make a whole lot of sense. I think in terms of the dynamics of how this changes things, there will be more impetus on the forward line to create goal scoring opportunities because you're not going to get the same level of goals and assist output from the left-hand side. I'll have to see how Facundo Mura actually plays in terms of his offensive versus defensive percentage, but it's not going to be similar to Jordi Alba. So some of the burden is going to now shift on the front line. So you also have to invest in those positions to make sure you cover up for that deficit. But I think in terms of doing the first job that a fullback's supposed to do defensively, I think we've got really good cover both in the first signings and in the backup signings as well. So I'm actually very comfortable in the way that this has played out. Now, listen, we could have overpaid. We could have brought in somebody that's not been tried and tested. And Facundo Mura might not work out. Sergio Reguilón might not work out. But I think you can't dismiss them at the start without actually watching them play a minute for Inter Miami. So overall, it makes me a lot more comfortable thinking that the business has already been done in the fullback situation and it's been done in a way that I'm very comfortable with and very happy with. So I'm looking forward to these 2 players coming to Inter Miami and playing their first games because this looks like a good start to what is going to be a very significant rebuild of the squad.
What do you think we're going to see at right back? Because, like, if we know this club from what we saw in the first 6 months of Javier Mascherano's tenure, like, I think you would expect Facundo Mura to come in and just be the starter until sort of you think otherwise. We did see Javier Mascherano kind of move away from his preferred guys at the sort of end of the season, and Ian Fray, one of the players that sort of earned his starting role again under Javier Mascherano. Do you think Fray goes in as the number one right back and it kind of is a rotation at first? Do you think it's Facundo Mura is the starting right back and then Fray is kind of a piece that we're going to do a little bit in the midfield, a little bit at center back, a little bit at right back, and he'll end up sort of playing a lot? Like, what do you expect? Because I do think the last few months we've seen a shift in how Javier Mascherano has approached who he's actually giving game time to.
Give me the salary cap that we're paying for Facundo Mura, and I'll let you know whether he's a starter or not.
I expect them to be kind of similar, Ian Fray.
Yeah.
And I think Ian Fray will probably get around 500, $500,000 a year. And I think Facundo Mura will be more like 600, 650, which is same sort of tier of player. Guessing. Those are total guesses, by the way. But
I think Mura's
everyone
going
has
to
done
come
the
in as a starter and Ian Fray is going to get minutes across the board in different positions. And if Ian Fray is performing better than Mura, I have no doubt in my mind that Javier Mascherano is going to replace him, because I think now he trusts Ian Fray and knows exactly what he's going to get from Ian Fray. But to start the season, I believe Mura is going to get a few minutes ahead of Ian Fray. And Fray might have to do a little bit of jousting for his own position and try and win some minutes, at least at the start of the season. There's going to be a lot of games coming in, and we know Javier Mascherano doesn't like to rotate, but this is one where I think he can manage the minutes well, and he recognizes Ian Fray's injury history as well, so he's going to have to balance it out. I think Mura comes in as the starter, and then Ian Fray gets minutes, maybe centre back, but also right back from time to time, and eventually may even be able to win his place back. That's my understanding of how the situation is going to play out.
Do you think there's any chance that Ian Fray's coming back to not be a right back at all? And they consider this like a center back signing? And
I doubt it.
I will say, when he went to play with Jamaica, he started in the midfield.
Midfield.
He was a sort of dual pivot number 6, I think, in that game that he started for his first start for Jamaica. So again, we're talking about World Cup. We're talking about him sort of figuring out what he wants his career to be. And again, speculating. Maybe he wants to play more center back. Maybe he wants to play as a midfielder, which is sort of how he grew up. And so these are like totally unrelated. And again, I think there's going to be a lot of minutes to be won in the midfield with what this team looks like come the end of February.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if Javier Mascherano wanted to test Ian Fray as a centre back, he would have done so last season. So I highly doubt it, unless that's something that they spoke about in the offseason that was part of him re-signing. So,
well, listen. You remember when Ian Fray went to center back in the Club World Cup, and it looked a lot better, right? The toughest games we played all season, we started with Ian Fray at right back, and then Toto Aviles wasn't ready for the moment. We moved Ian Fray to center back, and Chalawegan was at right back. And
yeah, but that was like one game. I understand what you're getting at, but I just don't see it. I don't personally see Javier Mascherano treating Ian Fray as a centre-back signing. He may play there if need requires, but I think he's going to come in as a right back because, yeah, I don't see it, honestly.
I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I'm just going
to I won't be surprised, yeah. I think you have a sense and you make a good point, but I personally don't see Javier Mascherano making that move. He's not that creative. So I think he's going to stick to his guns. He knows and trusts Ian Fray in that right back spot, and that's where he's going to be utilized. But who knows, man? Maybe we're just waffling about this and you are absolutely spot on.
I guess the reason I am curious is because if you're Facundo Mura, are you coming here to be a rotation piece, or do you feel like you've earned a starting job at a high level club, and that's why you wanted to pursue this opportunity? But it's as a starting right back. Obviously, we're just speculating, but when it comes to late January and we start getting into those preseason games, like Ian Fray he's the established returning starter at right back. You wouldn't necessarily go out and sign a big mid-sized free agent at that position if you felt like you didn't want him Like, it doesn't feel like they want Ian Fray to have competition. I think they just felt there was two good players they could put on the roster together.
Yeah.
But then when you factor in that you need to get Ian Fray to sign a contract, you also think maybe the team sort of wanted to have a plan in place that everyone was on board with.
If at any point in the first few games or in the preseason I see Ian Fray lining up as a centre back, I'll tip my hat to you. And I will acknowledge that you were the first one to point that out. But yeah, it's a possibility. Absolutely.
Okay. I think we're good at left back. I think we're good at right back. And what do you want to see the team sort of focus on next? I think they're going to sign a center back or two. I think they're going to sign a midfielder or two. I think they're going to sign a striker or two. And then they're going to have to figure out goalkeeper. So there's still a lot of work to do.
One more point on the fullbacks, though. This makes it very balanced. Like with Jordi Alba, it was a little bit unbalanced because a lot of our focal point of attack was coming from the left-hand side. And we did have vulnerabilities on the left-hand side defensively. The right-hand side was more defensively stall and did not get involved as much in the right-hand side, which I think allowed teams to figure us out over the course of 90 minutes. Do you think this adds a bit of balance now? Do you think there's a silver lining to all of this that allows us to be across the back line, be a lot more balanced, both defensively and going forward, and actually just switch it up? And maybe we sign, whoever we sign or use as our wingers, I think the focus of our attack just completely shifts, and it could be any side that we attack from. Because I genuinely think there's a new sense of balance that we're going to see from the team defensively that we haven't seen since Jordi Alba has played for this club. Because, and I'm not saying it was bad by any means, it won us the MLS Cup, absolutely. But there's something to be said about what this balance brings. But I'm curious to see if you think the same way about that.
Our episode on Thursday is going to be talking about how Inter Miami should play this season. But I think it really depends on sort of what they do. Are they going to switch to a 4-3-3? And I think we'll get sort of ideas in that direction based on who they sign. Is Suarez going to be back and they're going to feel like they have to play a 4-4-2 to accommodate Messi and Suarez up top, and then they need the defensive presence to make everything work? And then I think you might get a very similar setup to what Inter Miami had at the beginning of this season, where they don't have either of their fullbacks get particularly high, and they put a lot of the pressure on the midfield, those wide players, and then obviously Messi and Suarez to create offense for them. It is a whole podcast unto itself. So maybe we should leave it there and come back to it next time. So yeah, I still think they have a lot of work to do, but to have one position sort of crossed off, I feel good about it. And you only have nine more to go, right?
I agree. So many signings to be made.
Yeah, there really are. And Inter Miami always signs like 8 to 10 players every season, and it feels like, man, when are we going to get some stability? Because there are teams that have signed 8 to 10 players over the last 4 years, but it's just never comes. They always trying to upgrade and move, and listen, that's what you got to do in this league because it's constantly getting better.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to some other topical news. Last week, Lionel Messi officially announced as the MLS MVP for the second straight season. First player to ever do it back-to-back seasons. He's only the second player to ever win the award twice. 68 goal contributions this year. I mean, he was unbelievable.
I think this was the worst kept secret in the MLS for the last month or month and a half. This was a long time coming. There was no way that he was not getting this. I think there was some surprising statistics about how only 50% of the players voted in his favor, which is absurd. How is it that it's not more than 70% of the players who vote for Messi? Because he has been phenomenal, not just the entire season, but more so over the last 5-6 months. He has been playing at a level that I don't think the MLS has ever seen. It's insane what he did in the playoffs. It's insane what he's been doing for Inter Miami, especially this season. I will constantly go back to this. You talk about players like Thomas Müller and Heung-min Son, and you try and compare them to Messi, but he's just putting up numbers that are absurd. That are absolutely absurd. So the fact that he's finally got the MVP is a surprise to nobody. this was a long time coming, and congratulations to him, back-to-back MVPs. This is huge. First time ever in the MLS, I believe, and first time for Inter Miami.
Yeah, obviously the first Inter Miami player to win the MVP, and he said that was fun. Let me do it again. 3 more seasons for Messi at Miami. We assume he's under contract for the 2026 season, that shortened 2027 half season. That's going to be count as its own season, and then the following count after the calendar switch, 27 to 28 season. That's 3 more years. Do you think he's won his last MLS MVP?
I think he's going to win another one before he retires.
And the reason I say that
Next
is
season.
because I think the standard for him to win is going to get higher because there's going to be voter fatigue and they're going to want to recognize other players. And I think if he did what he did in 2024 next season, I don't think he would win the MVP, even though he won it in 2024. Because I think he has to not just be the best player in the league, but he has to also meet all
Surpass
the
his own
criteria.
greatness.
Maybe not surpass, but live up to it. And that will include not just playing well, but also playing a lot. And I don't think he's going to be able to miss 15 games again and still win an MVP. I do think voter fatigue will come in at some point and prevent, want to recognize other good players. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying he won't. I mean, I think he would probably be my favorite next season, but
here's the thing, right? If he has another season like this where it's so undeniable that it's hard for anyone
right. Well,
to say any.
and that's the whole point. What we saw from him in the last 3 months was so undeniable that you just couldn't be argued. And so if he does that again, certainly. But as Pepto says in the chat, there will be pushes for players like Heung-min Son or maybe even some MLS, Denny Bouanga or Evander or someone like that to come in and also sort of share in the greatest individual award that the MLS has to offer. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he just won his last one. I also think there's a real chance that this is the best season we got or we will get out of Messi from an individual standpoint because
maybe
again, he was absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's talk about the Concacaf Champions Cup because the draw was last week, and it's another thing that we didn't end up talking about because so many other things were going on, and we had to talk about those. But Inter Miami gets a pass into the round of 16 as MLS Cup champions. They're one of 5 avenues to get a bye into the second round. You can win the Leagues Cup, which is what Seattle did. You can win the Pan American Championship, and you can win the Caribbean Cup. That has a name that I'm not remembering accurately. Or you can win the Liga MX Championship, which Toluca did. So Inter Miami advances into the round of 16. And can I give you one guess on who their most likely opponent will be come February? No,
well,
March.
it kind of defeats the purpose because I know who you're going to say. I'm going to say Nashville.
It's actually Atletico, a Canadian Premier League team.
Sure.
But if they lose, it will be Nashville. Inter Miami, by some stroke of divine injustice, is going to, in all likelihood, play Nashville SC again in their first.
I'm very excited because we've not played Nashville in forever and it's been so long, and I'm really excited to see what they do next season and blah, 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 blah. I think we could probably talk about Nashville without having to do any research anymore. It's like half of our podcast is about Nashville. So it's definitely divine intervention, man. It truly is. But they'll have a new coach next season, won't they?
Nashville? No, they got BJ who's carrying it.
Oh,
I will say
Callahan.
Walker Zimmerman just signed with Toronto FC, so they're going to have a little bit of a new look team. I think they are. I think this was like the let's see what you got, BJ, and now they're really going to invest and kind of reshape the roster around his vision. So it will look different. I know they're moving on from the goalkeeper and giving a younger guy an opportunity. So, listen, Inter Miami, I think, ended Elliot Panico's best time at Nashville in the Leagues Cup, and then they ended Joe Willis's best time in the playoffs. And so it's just another Nashville goalkeeper for us to ruin. The reason I mentioned that, it'll be in, I think the second weekend of March will be our second midweek of March will be the first leg, and then the following week will be the second leg. Inter Miami will be at home for the second leg. That game will be at Dry Pink Stadium, and I think we expect that to be the final Inter Miami game at Dry Pink Stadium. before every game will move on to Miami Freedom Park. And if they advance into the next round, again, Miami Freedom Park is what we expect. Just some potential opponents. I think it will be Club America versus the Philadelphia Union, as in sort of the opposite bracket for the winner of Inter Miami versus Nashville. Seattle Sounders, Vancouver, FC Cincinnati, Tigres, all really good teams coming out that Inter Miami could play in the semifinals. One of the things I will say is I think that actually helps Inter Miami, because one of the worst things that can happen is a team plays a bunch of easy teams, or a bunch of teams from like Central America or the Caribbean or Canada, the Canadian Premiership, and they just rack up goal differential, and that really helps them with home field advantage later on. The fact that there's so many MLS and Liga MX teams, I think will make it so that Inter Miami against Nashville will actually have a chance to be the team that gets a pair of wins and kind of helps themselves with home field advantage. But obviously it's going to be a tough road from there. The other side of the bracket is much simpler, much easier. And I think Inter Miami will not host the Concacaf Champions Cup final if they were to get there, because there's a lot of teams on the other side of the bracket to stack up your goal differential and stack up wins against. So
just do it in a neutral territory, man. Especially after what happened last season with Vancouver. Just do it in a neutral territory.
well,
Regardless, I guess to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I think it also, another point to this is when you're playing good teams, you have to get in form early, and you can't have any complacency. And all it could be sometimes is that you play some easy teams early on, and then the moment you meet a difficult team, you're not ready to compete at that same level. So the fact that Inter Miami has a bit of a tough bracket might actually work in our favor. I might be coping, but
listen, we had an easy side of the bracket last year. We really did.
Exactly.
And it clearly didn't help us when it came time to play the good teams. So maybe you're absolutely right. Build a little toughness and resilience early on, and it might help you later on. That is going to be the most important trophy next year. And it will feel like a tale of two seasons. And we'll do the schedule episode soon. But Inter Miami, the first 20-ish or so games of the regular season, the MLS, plus the Concacaf Champions Cup, it is going to feel like a mad dash heading into the World Cup. And then we're going to have a giant break from Inter Miami. And so if they can really push in that tournament, it's going to feel like this is the one thing worth going for. And then when you're talking about the Supporters' Shield, when you're talking about seeding in the playoffs, you can sort of overcome whatever happened in the first half in the last 15 games post World Cup, and then go for the MLS Cup playoffs. But that will feel like a separate thing. So going all in on this tournament feels like the move, and it feels like
it's like one season and then playing another season after the World Cup. It's basically that.
Yeah, especially with this tournament sort of ending right around there. Okay, yeah. Moving on, Inter Miami gets to play in the Campeones Cup. Now, for those that don't know, every year, the MLS champion will play the Liga MX Super Cup winner. Super Cup is decided between the Apertura and Clausura victors. This year, both were won in 2025 by Toluca, so they will just win by default. And so Inter Miami will play Toluca sometime in the second half of the season for the Campeones Cup. This past year, it was October 1st. The LA Galaxy is the reigning champs. Also played Toluca. They lost that game 3-2 at home. That game will be at Miami Freedom Park. It will happen after the World Cup, and they'll have to figure out a date that makes sense. And we still haven't learned about the fate of the Leagues Cup yet. But it's a nice little perk to have an extra trophy-winning game.
Easy trophy-winning game as well. Just one game you win, and you win a trophy. So it's, I think, a psychological upside to it. I think it's going to be a fun game. I really hope Inter Miami comes out the victors there. And the fact that it's going to be at Miami Freedom Park is going to be really fun as well. So always like these games. I'm surprised it's like after the World Cup. Usually a Super Cup is played before, or the Champions Cup is played before.
Yeah, I just
at
don't
the
think
start
there's
of the
time.
season. But
I don't
yeah,
think there's a real good window.
I get it.
What I will say is that will probably be the first final at Miami Freedom Park.
Yeah, maybe. Probably.
It'd be pretty cool to win. Also, not not a trophy that I've ever thought about winning. And now that we're playing for it, I think I need it more than anything.
Oh,
We'll have plenty of
absolutely.
chances to win the Concacaf Champions Cup, but
We're not going to have enough chances to win. Yeah.
exactly. Okay. The last thing I wanted to mention is some preseason updates. Inter Miami is going to do a tour just like they did last year. It's going to be more Central and South America. We've heard some rumors about some games, but the two that seem most confirmed are a game against Atlético Nacional, which is a Colombian side, on January 31st. One of the most successful South American clubs outside of Brazil and Argentina over the last 15, actually really like 40 years. That was the club, fun fact, owned by Pablo Escobar back in the 80s.
Wow.
They won the Copa Libertadores in 2016, and they were the last non-Argentine or Brazilian club to win that tournament. Obviously, 10 years on, it's none of those players are still there, but like it is
A historic
outside of
club.
Brazil, it is one of the more prestigious and well-known clubs. So that's pretty cool. I think that will be exciting. And then they're going to play our old friend Alan Obando on February 7th. We've got Barcelona SC, the club in Guayaquil, Ecuador, on the schedule. So a week after the game against Atlético Nacional. I think these are pretty exciting teams, and I've always known you've been waiting for the day Messi gets on the field with Barcelona. So
This is
coming
Timo
sooner than you thought.
Barcelona, but it's Barcelona. Kind of. Some kind of Barcelona. I will say last preseason was very well done because by the time Inter Miami got going against Kansas in the Concacaf Champions Cup, and they looked ready, they looked fresh. It wasn't an overburdened preseason. We didn't travel around the world a lot, and I thought it was really well done. And I hope this one shapes up to be similar. The entire point is to prepare the players. These are some good teams that you're going to go up against. You're obviously taking the trip to South America, which is going to be good for experience and playing in those conditions and on those pitches. So I think this is a positive. These two announcements are positive, and I won't be surprised if there's a couple of more South American teams, bigger names in there, and maybe even a European team. Who knows? But I'm always excited for preseason. It's a fun time to watch your team without actually any burden or concerns and risks, and it's just go out there, get fit, and explore how you want to play for the next season. So maybe we get to see a few new faces in the lineup, which would be fun as well. I'm excited for the preseason already.
Can I ask you a question? I saw a couple mentions of this in the chat, but are you afraid of the Liga MX clubs at all?
No,
Like, I feel like that was a thing when we first were gonna play them, but
we played them plenty in the Leagues Cup now.
we've played them
We've
we've played so many
yeah,
games, even against good teams,
we've
Tigres, and
played them, we beat them.
we've beaten them. And I get we haven't done it in Mexico, right? We've only went to Mexico one time and lost to Monterrey, but every other game we've played against a Liga MX team, we've either won or competed for the entire game.
I will
Like, I
say
don't.
the Atlas game was a bit iffy. The Necaxa game was a bit on the edge. So maybe it wasn't as convincing as we're thinking. But yeah, I don't think we're afraid, or we should be afraid of any of the Liga MX teams.
We also beat Tigres without Lionel Messi. So
Yeah.
the idea that we need to super buff this team up to have a chance in the Concacaf Champions Cup, I think is just wrong. And I think if they were in better form this year, they would have won it. Obviously, they ran into Vancouver right as they were falling apart, and they got beat up because of it. But if they were in the form they were at the end of the season, they would have crushed Vancouver over two legs, and then they would have hosted the final, and I think they would have beaten Cruz Azul. So, I don't think that Inter Miami should be afraid of Liga MX teams.
Yeah. And we were against Monterrey last to last season with under Tata Martino, but that team was so different from what this team is now. And that was also at the start of when we were still figuring out a few players here and there.
You mean
It
against
wasn't the same
Monterrey?
by any means. Yeah, against Monterrey.
Yeah, but again, that was our first time doing it.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
We had only ever played that was our second ever matchup in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think they are so much more prepared and mentally ready for this. It was our third ever game I guess the first leg was our second ever game against a Liga MX club. And now we've played like maybe 10 games against Liga MX clubs, and we've won more than half of them. So I don't think Inter Miami should be afraid of anything.
We're the
Get yourself in a
champions
good
of the MLS. Why would you be afraid? Just go out there and put on your brand of football and then hope for the best. No, genuinely though, as champions, you have to play like champions. You can't be afraid of any teams as such.
Also, like, if you think there's some giant gulf in quality between Liga MX and MLS, you just don't understand what MLS has become over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think that's like pretty clear. So that's all I got on my list. Although, wait, I did look up a fun fact. Do you know who else plays for Barcelona de Guayaquil in Ecuador?
Emerson Royale.
Rodriguez.
Oh, sorry, Emerson Rodriguez.
Our old friend Dixon Arroyo, who
Oh.
spent a year with Inter Miami as a sort of fill-in when Gregory got injured early in the year. We signed Dixon Arroyo out of Emelec in Ecuador, but then when he left Inter Miami, he went and signed with Barcelona, and he spent the last 2 seasons there. Now, I don't know if he'll still be on the team come February, but for now, he might be a guy that we sort of get a recap with.
So maybe a couple of reunions.
Were you just anxiously awaiting Messi and Dixon Arroyo's reunion as on the pitch? Right?
Listen, we could have played Gregory when we almost lost, when we drew with Palmeiras. If we had won that game, we would have gone against Botafogo, and then we would have played Gregory. So that would have been a different world as well. Anyways.
Okay. Anything else on your mind before we get out of here?
Nah, man, this was like a nice catch-up episode, one that we just needed to take a breather because there's so much happening in and around the world of Inter Miami. It's always important to just sit and tick a few things off the list. Now we can go into the next season and talk next episode and talk big picture, which I always find exciting. So I think this was an important exercise, and thank you so much for everyone for sticking around in the chat. It's been a pleasure.
As always, guys, we will see you again later this week. But until then, have a lovely night, and we'll see you then. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this, and have a wonderful day.